Then I will say to everyone who is Zooming in with us tonight, welcome. Please bear with us as we learn to use Chromebooks and a different way of communicating even with each other. That is why we're a little late in starting. So at this time, I will call the meeting to order, and we will please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first order of business is to approve the agenda for the evening. A motion, please, to approve the agenda. Now, board members, you're going to have to wave your hands so I can see them. And I guess you're all muted, so I can't hear you even if you holler at me. Linda, there's a motion, a second. Jason, thank you. Do we need to pull something out of the consent? Oh, I was looking at the wrong agenda. All right, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the agenda, please wave your hands, board members, and keep waving them until I check you all. Okay, thank you. That motion is approved. At this time, we'll move to the presentations by SWBR and Campus Construction. Would you please introduce yourselves and then continue?
I'll start. This is Kevin Donahue with Campus Construction. With me is Justin Busey with Campus is also online, and then I'll let SWBR's team introduce themselves.
Sure. This is Steve Rebholz, and with us is Mark Madalena from SWBR.
So in typical fashion, this is Kevin again. I'll start with a brief progress update, and we'll talk to the current budget status, and then open it up for Q&A, and we'll go from there. So we have continued to make good progress at the middle school. If anyone has driven past, I'll start on the outside of the building. You would see a significant portion of the sidewalks have been completed in the last few weeks. Most of the sidewalk running along the west side of the building is installed. And then there's a new connecting sidewalk that wraps around the south side of the building. It comes off the what will be the new bus loop area and connects to a couple of the exit ways and then over to the front side of the building where the existing sidewalk remains. In the middle of the parking lot, you'll see the curbing and the guardrail system that isolates the bus loop from the parking, and the curb work towards the western side for the new curb cut for parking is installed too. Restoration and the bus access road will be started in the next few weeks, probably closer towards September, because it's going to be the last component of site work to be completed. Inside the building, and I know everyone took a tour last month, the building has continued to progress very well. Finishes are happening all the way across all 3 floors. Starting upstairs, all the classrooms are in really good shape, with even casework and casework tops being installed in the home and careers area. The corridor flooring has started on both the 3rd and 2nd floor. and the first floor is still progressing well. The cafeteria and kitchen renovations are ongoing with finishes started, and also the main office. One significant component I'll talk to that did arrive and has been installed. They're not 100%, but you would see the locker system. So I bring that up because we were a little bit concerned in the springtime with the pandemic. We were hearing some delays in manufacturing for lockers across the state, but fortunately, the GC held the schedule. Lockers did arrive and they are installed. And then lastly to talk to is the toilet rooms and locker rooms. The wall tile is complete. The floor, the epoxy floor system is started throughout most of the bathrooms, and in some rooms it's completed, and new fixtures are going on the wall. So big picture, we see we're still holding the construction sequence schedule. The contractors are still working off a schedule that shows an October 20th finish date. That's for substantial completion. And then of course, like we've previously advised, there'll be commissioning and inspections and efficiency lists and all that issued so that the building will truly be ready for occupancy. We did have that's all the good news. We had one setback in the auditorium. A couple weeks back, we had found an existing condition above the ceiling system where new piping was scheduled to be routed. We found some existing old pipe with asbestos insulation on it. And then most recently, in the last couple days, it was discovered that there's actually a little bit further disturbance around that insulation that wasn't anticipated or originally planned for. So we're working through that. I don't know what the overall impact will look like yet, but it was a small bump in the road in the last few days that just wanted to bring everyone up to speed on. Other than that, it's continuing to progress. So if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them from anybody.
Thank you. But that other one normally comes from campus, right?
I hope everybody heard me.
What date did you say?
Mike, do you guys have any questions?
What date did? Yes. What date did you say for occupancy?
So we're finishing the construction process by October 20th, and what that means for the district's move-in occupancy, we have not worked that out with the district yet. So, but substantial completion and the certificate of occupancy is scheduled to be issued on October 20th.
Okay, thank you.
Jason?
So I think it's the crumbs.
Hi, Kevin. Did you have, I didn't see a monthly update from campus. Do you guys have that available?
Jason?
We do. We sent the administration towards the end of last week, I believe.
You can lose PC.
Would you wait, please? Jason, we did not hear your.
I'll shut down that.
question. There was an echo somehow or another.
I was just asking Kevin if they had a monthly update available because we didn't receive one.
The answer is yes, Jason. We did submit a monthly report. I guess I assumed it had made the board packet, but it sounds like not.
That was distributed in my weekly capital project update last Friday.
Well, yeah, I had that, Bob. I was just looking for the ones with the pictures, the updated pictures, and
That was in my weekly. It's in there. There were 3 attachments. There was a budget summary, a what's changed list, and the monthly report.
Thank you, Bob. And it sounds like you have it, but we could certainly redistribute it if needed.
no, it's all right. I can go back. And look.
Any other questions on progress? Okay, I'll talk quickly to the budget. When you do get an opportunity to look at the report, there is a budget summary in there. You'll see that the contingency balance is being held currently at just over 260,000. So we think that's in good shape, all things considered, to finish the project. really the biggest risk or unknown that has still not been totally vetted out is the construction of that site access, the bus access road. So inside the building, like I said, we did find a little bit of a piece of its asbestos, but for the most part, with finishes going, there's shouldn't be a big risk for additional unknowns. We should have that pretty well shaken out by now. So we think the contingency's holding up. We think should be no issue in finishing the projects with the current budget.
Kevin, we toured the middle school a little while ago, and
Yeah.
one of the questions that came up was that the barrier for the school bus, the curb and the guardrail, there isn't a spot for a handicap accessible, like a wheelchair or somebody with crutches to easily cross the parking lot without walking from one end to the other to go around that barrier. Is there something planned for that? So if you're walking from the maintenance building to the middle school, and say we have a student that's in a wheelchair or a student that broke their leg and they have crutches, that guardrail goes from one end of the parking lot to the other. There's no walk-through other than on the ends. So you'd have to walk the entire distance of the parking lot, which seems kind of crazy to me. But do you guys have something planned for that? Are you cutting out the guardrail? Are you going to resaw the concrete so that there's a pass through there?
So Kevin, this is Steve Rebholz. I could speak to that a little bit in that the accessible entrance for an individual with a wheelchair is at the end of the building. The center entrance is not an accessible entrance because of the stairs that you navigate once you enter. So I will take a closer look at that plan, but the accessible parking would have been positioned near the accessible entrance.
Okay. That's not our property. So on our property, there's not a parking area that's designated for anyone that has any sort of need for that. I mean,
no, the accessible entrance is on your property.
well, the parking for it
again. No, the parking, it would be. I see what you're talking about. The parking lot across the road.
Correct. That's not
Okay.
our property. I mean, I would think that there'd
Understood.
be a designated area for handicap parking on our property and a pathway for those people to be able to exit their cars and enter the school.
Understood. So I'll take a look and report back to Mike and Bob, showing where those accessible spaces are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was John. Thank you, John.
Any other questions from the board? Steve, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything from your perspective?
No, Kevin, I think you covered it well. If there are any other questions, we're available to field those.
Okay, well, enjoy the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We come now to the consent agenda. Motion, please, to approve the consent agenda. Tina, I see your hand, and Paul. Discussion, questions? John, you were concerned, right, about number
Item 8.
8. That should have been deleted as Sarah was approved at the last meeting. It inadvertently got left on this agenda. So if you'd all just cross that off, then you'll be able to vote. You don't need to abstain.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Cinda,
Yes, Paul.
yeah, I'm a little confused now. Are we going to cross off all of 8 or
No,
just,
no,
or just?
just six, just the name Sarah Bogard.
No, what it was
Okay.
is last board meeting, you approved the subcommittees. I am. You approved the subcommittees, and I showed you who were the 2019, 2020, then I did the 2021. We needed to approve Robin because Christy Graves is now filling in for Melissa, or we're adding her. So instead of taking off all the names, I should have taken off the other names and just put Robin. But instead I kept all the names that were there so you knew who you had approved before. That was my confusion. I apologize. So Robin is actually the only one that you're approving tonight.
That makes sense, and that's fine, because in looking at the board minutes, we can see at a glance who's on that committee. Did you all understand that then, that all the names were that are here were approved except Robin's? And when you vote for the consent agenda, it's Robin's name that will be approved. Other questions, concerns on the consent agenda?
Cinda,
Yes, Paul.
I haven't had a chance to read this new one as of tonight. Did we get the date changed and those other items that I had questioned?
I did change the date on Caitlin Wozlowski.
Okay.
It is 2021.
Okay, thanks. After we logged in on our Chromebooks, I was never able to log back in at home, so I never got the answers to the questions, even though, Bob, I see you tried to answer them. So if I ask them again tonight, that's because I just never got them. I never got the answers because of the computer glitch, not because you didn't answer them.
I was in the same boat, Paul. Couldn't get into my own computer. Other questions? Bob, was your hand up? Did you have a question or want to clarify something? No. Okay. Sorry. All right. Unless I hear or see a great flurry, I think we're ready to vote on the consent agenda. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please wave your hands. Okay. All right, good. Thank you. Okay. All right. Then we move to the good news part of our agenda. Do any of you have good news to share? Paul?
Yeah, the articles in the newspaper have been a little light, but I think it's fantastic that our district's been able to supply 10,000 meals a week to personnel in our district. I mean, I think that's fantastic. More good news would be that I think it's also great. We've reviewed all of our facilities now as a board, and we have short-term plans and long-term plans on how to on the way forward. So I think those are good news items.
Mm-hmm. Very good. All right. Izetta, you asked a question earlier in the week on board training. Were we interested in doing the trainings that NISBA supplies? That will be online. None of us will be traveling to New York City for that. So I would suggest if you're interested in any of those that come across your computers, let Tina know that you're interested in those trainings. Tina Fuller. I have also another thing for you. I have the committees, the board committees and designations, and there's copies for everyone. I'll just start those down. Hold on. There we go. And when we had talked before, I had the committees pretty well set except for negotiations, and now I have that set as well. So that's for your information. And I believe that concludes the business that we have for open session. So at this time, I need a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of the board to discuss the employment history of a specific employee. A motion, please. John. A second. Jason. All in favor? Wave your hands. Thank you. And at this time, we'll say goodbye to our guests. Thank you for joining us. We will not be doing further business after we come out of executive session. So I will say goodnight to you. And again, thank you for joining us. And how we shut this all off, I don't know. So bear with us.